Yo, what's going on guys? Bexio back, and today we are going to talk about Bitcoin versus Ethereum, number one versus number two. Which one should you put your money behind and invest in? So obviously, depending on who you talk to, you're going to get very different responses with Bitcoin and Ethereum. There's going to be Bitcoin maximalists. There are people who are only about Bitcoin and it can only be Bitcoin that succeeds. Others are Bitcoin haters. You have both spectrums. People who say Bitcoin should not be around, it's not worth it, and it is old technology. So you're going to have a lot of people far and in between talking about whether or not you should buy Bitcoin or stay away from Bitcoin, and the same stands for Ethereum. So I just wanted to cover the differences between Bitcoin and Ethereum because they are not the same at all. They're very, very different in how they operate, and I just think that both of them are different bets in the future. So putting money behind Bitcoin is a different type of investment or risk than putting money into Ethereum at this point. So with Bitcoin, you have the number one cryptocurrency. It is king and has been ever since it came out, and it started this entire cryptocurrency marketplace and experience and really kicked everything off. So it plays a huge role in crypto in general, and it has a lot of characteristics that I think is needed in cryptos that others don't have, that claim to be better than Bitcoin, but these characteristics set Bitcoin apart, and I don't think can be really replicated at this point with how Bitcoin is. And the first one is going to be that nobody knows the creator of Bitcoin. So there's no one behind Bitcoin that you can tag and say that person created Bitcoin. There's no one that you can do that to. There's no one that can tell someone that this is how they meant the coin to be used. This is what they meant when they coded this many Bitcoin, 21 million. They wanted Bitcoin to be this, so anyone who thinks otherwise is wrong. Bitcoin is up to everyone's interpretation, and it just happens that a lot of people agree that Bitcoin should be a store of value, and that's what it's evolved into. Basically with, corporations coming in, putting it in their balance sheet, individuals who have been holding Bitcoin for decades, or longer than a decade now. So it has evolved into that store of value and kind of turned away from a currency, but I think that it can achieve a currency at a later date when it starts to stabilize in price, but that is a long way away. Another huge thing about Bitcoin that I don't think people actually understand is how its fungibility that it has. So it's basically able to divide up into 100 million parts, each part called a Satoshi. So I think a lot of people think that Bitcoin, they look at the price and say it's too expensive, and they think that you have to buy an entire Bitcoin when it's not the case. You can buy any amount of Bitcoin. It'll just be divided up into that 100 millionth of a Bitcoin, and then you won't see it that way. You'll see it in decimal place of Bitcoin. So, if you were to buy $100, it would be 0.001 Bitcoin or whatever it would be. You wouldn't read it as the Satoshi number, but you could. But that's why it's able to be sold that way. So if it didn't have that fungibility, if it didn't have that divisibility, then you would have to buy full Bitcoins. You wouldn't have the choice of buying partial bits of Bitcoin here and there. So that's why it makes it super important as well for it to do that, so that everyone can have access to it. You don't need a ton of money. If you have $100, you can put $100 in. If you have $10, you can put $10 in. And if you have $50,000, you can put $50,000 in. And Bitcoin is 24/7, 365 operating. It is never shut down. Trading is constant. Like I said, every single day of the year, 24 hours a day, Bitcoin market is open and the Bitcoin network is operating. So there is never a time that you will not be able to send Bitcoin. There's never a time you won't be able to buy Bitcoin, sell Bitcoin, trade Bitcoin, send Bitcoin from wallet to wallet. You will always be able to do that, and you will never have to wait the weekend. So that changes the banking industry tremendously, where weekends are now working. You can work on the weekend. You can transmit money on the weekend. So that's something that you can't really do right now. If you transfer money from one bank account to another, it's not going to happen over the weekend. And on top of that, it's going to take somewhere between 2 to 5 business days just to clear that transaction. So if you've never sent or transacted between bank accounts with different banks, then you've never had to experience this. But it takes two to 5 business days to actually transact the amount of money. So it's not instant. Whereas Bitcoin, people might, or even with the bank, you might think it's instant. It might appear instant, but it's not. The money's not there. You can see pending labels and stuff like that. But with Bitcoin, it's every 10 minutes is a block. So your transaction, when you send Bitcoin, can take 10 minutes. It's 10 minutes. It could take half an hour is like the longer part where people take to receive Bitcoin, but it is every 10 minutes a block is done. So at least 10 minutes, which is insanely faster than 2 to 5 days. So those are 3 big parts of Bitcoin that separates it from others and really brings its self-value that I've labeled out, and I think that those are some of the biggest. Obviously, there's more that brings to Bitcoin, but I just want to cover the top of what Bitcoin is and what makes it Bitcoin. So the instant transactions, 10 minutes to 30 minutes is instant when you compare it to multiple days. Not knowing the creator, I think, is huge because there's nobody to pin a problem on. If someone has a problem with Bitcoin, if someone wanted to ban Bitcoin, they could arrest the creator. But you can't do that because no one knows who it is. So Bitcoin is literally untouchable. And one more thing about Bitcoin that is actually massive is that it is unconfiscatable and uncensorable. So nobody can forcefully take your Bitcoin from you, and no one can tell you where you can send that Bitcoin. So no one can say you can't send Bitcoin for this, you can't pay for Bitcoin with that. Nobody can say that. Whereas banks can do it. They can freeze your accounts. They can confiscate your money, but that is a huge thing with Bitcoin, is that you cannot confiscate it and you cannot censor Bitcoin. You cannot tell someone if they can send Bitcoin to a certain address. You just can't. So next we've got Ethereum. This coin, in my opinion, is completely different than Bitcoin. To whereas if you think of the basics of Bitcoin, it is a store of value and a potential currency. And I mean, a currency that people do use. There are purchases in Bitcoin, but it's mainly the store of value with a little currency aspect. Ethereum, I think of Ethereum as a platform, not really a currency, not really store of wealth. That's not what people look to it as, but it does have a little bit store of wealth where people might see it that way, but the majority of it is a platform. Because Ethereum was built with the intent to have things built on top of it. It was meant to be a platform where, you have these NFTs, like those are really popular right now. NFTs are built on the Ethereum network, so when you buy and sell NFTs, you can verify that by using the Ethereum blockchain, and you know that NFT is legit because it validates on the blockchain. So a lot of people are getting into NFTs now, and I think it's going to be a huge space, and I think that's the biggest difference between Ethereum and Bitcoin is Ethereum was designed to have things built on top of it, to be the gas, is what they call it, of how these operate. So that's why Ethereum's important, because without Ethereum, you can't move these different platforms. So like the NFTs, you operate in Ethereum with an NFT. So if you were going to sell an NFT, you sell it for 5 Ethereum or 1 Ethereum, whatever you want to do the price at, and whatever someone will pay for it. So with this NFT space, it uses the Ethereum blockchain to validate, and then it uses Ethereum itself to be that middleman where you pay for it. So because you're using the blockchain, you use Ethereum to validate it, so you use Ethereum to buy it. It just makes sense. So to whereas people would put money in Bitcoin to store it in a monetary network that Bitcoin is, people would use Ethereum to operate things. So you would build a platform on top of Ethereum, and then you use Ethereum to operate that platform. So people wouldn't necessarily own Ethereum to store their wealth. They would use it to buy NFTs, to use the decentralized apps that are built on Ethereum, to operate in that ecosystem. So that's where the difference is. You don't need Bitcoin to operate in a Bitcoin network or in a Bitcoin ecosystem. Like there's no NFTs built on Bitcoin and stuff like that. Bitcoin is the store of wealth and then the currency to buy things, whereas Ethereum is the platform, allows things to operate on top of Ethereum by using the Ethereum itself as the middleman, the operating, cost, the way to operate on Ethereum. So which one should you invest your money in? Which one's going to be better and make you the most money? Obviously, you can't really come out and say which one that would be. This is all just speculation stuff. But coming into the crypto world, I would stick with, if you're brand new, no money in crypto, I think that building Bitcoin first is the #1 thing everyone should do. Everyone needs to have a stake of Bitcoin, needs to build their footing in Bitcoin. It's the least risky one right now because of the institutions coming in and balance sheets being added to it and kind of like swallowing the world right now. Bitcoin is going crazy. And it is the least risky one of the two. But with that being said, Ethereum does have huge potential, but obviously more risk because it needs the Ethereum network and the platforms to start to take off. So I think it will. I think NFTs are a start of a huge thing. And NFTs themselves are a huge market with the collector's market, and we're in a digital age, so I think all of it is going to be great for Ethereum and for crypto in general. So Ethereum might have more upside, just looking at how it can operate and being its platform. It just has a wider range of where it can interact with things and how people interact with it compared to what Bitcoin can store. So there is a chance that in the future, the Ethereum market cap flips the Bitcoin market cap just because of it being a platform and being able to do what it does. But I still would build Bitcoin first. Ethereum is the much more riskier play, which obviously can lead to more rewards. But like Bitcoin's bet is already sealed. It's been around for, 12 or 13 years. People are starting to pile in. Corporations are starting to pile in. It is catching on. Ethereum is a lot younger. I think it's only been around like 5 years, Ethereum, and it needs to take that next step. It needs to be a platform that everyone uses. I think NFTs are the first start to that, and I'm not betting against Ethereum. I have Ethereum, but I also built Bitcoin before I got into Ethereum. So I think that's what people should do. Obviously, it's up to you, whatever you want, but it's just my 2 cents here. So guys, let me know what you think of Bitcoin and Ethereum, if you own any, if you want to own any, and don't forget to smash the like button and subscribe. You're on the road to 1,000 subscribers. I'll see you guys in my next video.